Forget what your real estate agent is telling you about Florida, because the billionaire who made the most successful trade in Wall Street history by predicting the 2008 housing crash just issued a warning that should terrify every Florida homeowner. His exact words on CNBC: "Every aspect of real estate is going to get whacked, and I think we're just in the first inning." This isn't some random investor trying to scare you. This is Jeff Greene, the man who turned a billion-dollar real estate portfolio into billions more by shorting subprime mortgage bonds before the 2008 collapse. The man who now owns over $5 billion in South Florida real estate. And he's warning that Florida's housing market is about to experience a reckoning. And in the next 7 minutes, you're going to discover why the smartest real estate mind in America believes we've borrowed a huge amount of demand from the future. Why single-family inventory in Florida just hit its highest level in a decade. And why even Greene himself, with billions in capital and zero debt, is suing the city of West Palm Beach because he sees what's coming. This isn't speculation. This is a man with 40 years of real estate experience who owns over 100 buildings, telling you exactly what he sees. And if you ignore this warning, you might lose everything. Let me take you back to 2020. COVID hits. Everyone's working from home. New York, California, Massachusetts, all the high-tax states, suddenly they make no sense. Why pay 14% state income tax when Florida charges 0? Why deal with lockdowns and restrictions when Florida is wide open? The floodgates opened. In 2022 alone, Florida gained 360,000 new residents. That's nearly 1,000 people every single day moving to the state. Everyone wanted in. Home prices exploded. Bidding wars on everything. Developers couldn't build fast enough. And Jeff Greene, who'd lived in Los Angeles for 20 years before moving to Florida in 2007, watched this unfold. He developed Cameron Estates, a 548-unit apartment building in West Palm Beach. He started planning One West Palm, twin 30-story towers that would become the tallest structures in Palm Beach County. He bought land, lots of land. But unlike everyone else who assumed the boom would last forever, Greene saw something different. Something dangerous. In September 2023, he went on CNBC and said this: "We've borrowed a huge amount of demand from the future." All the people in big cities across the country like New York and Boston who were thinking of retiring to Florida between 2022 and 2025 decided to move immediately because of the pandemic. And then he dropped the bomb. That kind of in-migration between the Northeast and Florida is completely over now. So the expectation was Florida would keep booming forever. Everyone thought migration would stay strong. Everyone assumed prices would keep climbing. But reality? The migration wave is dead. The borrowed demand is exhausted. And now the bill is coming due. Let's talk about what Jeff Greene sees in the data, because this isn't emotion. This is math. And the math is screaming at us. According to Mike Simonson, president of Altos Research, single-family inventory in Florida reached its highest level in a decade in 2025, and it's still climbing. The latest data shows inventory up 37.6% compared to 2024. That's among the biggest increases in the entire country, and significantly higher than the national average of 29%. Florida is now one of only 8 states with higher inventory than pre-pandemic 2019 levels, up 8.6%. Over 360,000 single-family homes came onto the market in 2024 alone. That's a 9.5% increase from 2023. According to Dr. Brad O'Connor, chief economist at Florida Realtors, single-family homes ended 2024 at 4.7 months of supply, just barely a seller's market. But condos? 8.2 months of supply. That's solidly in buyer's market territory. And here's what that means. Sellers are losing power. Buyers have options. Homes are sitting longer. The median days on market hit 74 in Q3 2025. That's up from 58 days in Q3 2024. Properties are taking 73 days to go under contract on average, 14 days longer than a year earlier. But Greene isn't worried about the national averages. He's worried about specific markets where the crash is already happening. Cape Coral, the typical single-family home sold for nearly 7% less in August 2025 compared to the previous year. But here's the real number. Compared to August 2022, the median price has dropped over 13%. 13% from the peak. Northport, even more dramatic. August 2025 home prices are 20% less than 3 years prior. 20%! That's not a correction, that's a crash. And according to ATTM data from Q3 2025, Cape Coral has one of the highest foreclosure rates among major metros. The insurance crisis on the Gulf Coast is making these markets uninhabitable for average buyers. But here's where Jeff Greene's warning gets really dark. Because at a BizNow conference in December 2018, before COVID, before the boom, Greene said something that haunts every statement he's made since. We've been in a rigged market for 10 years now. The Federal Reserve has added over $4 trillion to our balance sheet. Globally, over $11 trillion have been added to central banks' balance sheets. Interest rates have been at ridiculously low levels. It's caused an insane amount of liquidity, and I don't think anyone knows how we're going to get out of it as an economy. He continued, "We all know it takes a lot longer to blow up a balloon and put the air into it than it does to pop it and let it all out. And when it drops fast." That was 2018. Since then, the Fed added trillions more during COVID. Interest rates went to zero. The government pumped stimulus checks into the economy. Everything Greene warned about got exponentially worse. And now, on CNBC in 2023, he said, what's happening is the trillions and trillions of dollars that were going into the economy are starting to run out. What's that going to mean for demand for everything? Retail, office, apartments? Every aspect of real estate is going to get whacked, and I think we're just in the first inning. The American consumer is tapped out. Pandemic savings are gone. Credit card debt is at record highs. Wages went up during the boom, but inflation ate all those gains and then some. The Peterson Institute for International Economics found that adjusted for inflation, wages fell 4.3% at an annual rate in the first quarter of 2022. So people have less purchasing power, less savings, higher costs, and they're being asked to buy Florida real estate at peak prices with 7% mortgage rates and insurance premiums that cost as much as a second mortgage? The math doesn't work anymore. And here's the detail that should terrify you. Jeff Greene, with his $5 billion real estate portfolio with zero debt, with more capital than 99% of developers, is struggling. In October 2025, Greene sued the city of West Palm Beach. His complaint? City officials unlawfully stalled approval of his twin 30-story condo towers on North Flagler Drive. The city refused to extend site approvals and impose new conditions tied to unrelated land deals. Greene alleges political motives, that his opposition to a city land swap influenced the delay. He's seeking a judicial order compelling the city to approve the project and claiming damages near $1 billion. Think about that. A billionaire with every advantage, every connection, every resource is stuck in litigation because even he can't navigate this market anymore. And if Jeff Greene with billions is struggling, what chance do you have? But let's talk about the underlying factor that makes Greene's warning so credible: migration. In 2022, Florida gained 360,000 new residents. In 2023, that dropped to 185,000. In 2024, just 64,000. That's an 80% collapse in migration. And migration drives housing demand. When 1,000 people a day are moving to Florida, you need more housing. Developers build, prices rise, everything appreciates. But when migration slows to a trickle, all that new construction suddenly has no buyers. Greene explained it perfectly. All the people who were thinking of retiring to Florida in the following years decided to move immediately because of the pandemic. That kind of in-migration between the Northeast and Florida is completely over now, as higher mortgage rates make it harder for people to move. We borrowed demand from the future, and now the future is here. But here's what separates Greene from every other developer panicking right now. He's not over-leveraged, he has no debt, and he's developing slowly. When he built Cameron Estates, his 548-unit apartment building, it took 3 years to stabilize. 3 years. Most developers would panic. Most developers would slash rents to fill units faster, but Greene had the capital to wait. At the 2018 BizNow conference, Greene explained his caution. It's really the story of Florida in a lot of ways. We hardly make any money because of the short season as it is. He was talking about how developers are competing for the same tenants in an oversupplied market. Greene owns majority stakes in several multifamily projects, the Strand, City Palms, the Whitney. But he's not rushing to build more. He's watching, waiting, because he sees what's coming. And what's coming is a market where only the strong survive, where developers with debt go bankrupt, where overpriced properties sit empty for months, where buyers have all the power. But Greene isn't just worried about oversupply and falling demand. He's worried about something more fundamental: insurance. Florida homeowners insurance costs increased 54% from 2019 to 2024. 54% in 5 years. And after Hurricanes Helene and Milton, those costs are going even higher. In coastal markets like Cape Coral, insurance is making homeownership impossible for average buyers. Even if you can afford the mortgage, you can't afford the insurance. And without insurance, you can't get a mortgage. It's a death spiral. Dr. Ken Johnson from the University of Mississippi tries to downplay it. Buyers don't pay that much attention to their insurance premiums, but Greene knows better. When insurance adds $600 to $1,000 per month to your housing costs, buyers absolutely notice, and they walk away. So here's where we are. Jeff Greene, the man who made the most successful individual trade in Wall Street history by shorting subprime mortgages before 2008, is warning that Florida's housing market is in the first inning of getting whacked. Single-family inventory is at a decade high and still rising. Migration collapsed 80%. Prices are falling in key markets. Condos are firmly in buyer's market territory. Insurance is crushing affordability, and the trillions pumped into the economy during COVID are running out. If you own Florida real estate, Greene's message is clear: be cautious. Don't assume appreciation will save you. Don't over-leverage, and understand that the market that existed from 2020 to 2022 is never coming back. If you're thinking about buying, run the numbers carefully. Factor in insurance. Factor in longer days on market. Factor in the reality that migration is dead and inventory is exploding, because the deals that made sense 2 years ago don't make sense today. And if you're watching this thinking, but Greene himself is still developing in Florida, you're right, he is, because he has $5 billion, zero debt, and a 40-year time horizon. He can afford to wait out the correction. He can afford to hold properties through a downturn. He built his career surviving market crashes. Can you? Jeff Greene isn't selling his Florida properties, but he's also not building aggressively. He's not assuming endless appreciation. And he's warning anyone who will listen that real estate is about to get whacked. The man predicted 2008, made billions betting against the bubble, and now he's telling you Florida is in trouble. The only question is, are you listening? That's it for today. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.